I wish that I'd been taught when I was at school. I'm an investor, a business owner, and a money educator. Understand it better. Compound interest, cash flow, budgeting, investments, recover from debt. No one explained to me. Put your money to work. It's about normalising the conversation. Hey everybody, it's Sarah Poynton here. I am an investor, business owner and money educator. And today we are talking about compound interest. Welcome to the Money Mechanics podcast. So this episode, I don't understand why we are not taught about compound interest when we are at school. It's one of those things that it's called the eighth wonder of the world. Albert Einstein said, those who understand it earn it, those who don't understand it pay it. It is such a simple thing to understand, and yet most people don't really know what it is and how, most importantly, how you can benefit from it yourself as a normal everyday person. You guys will know about credit cards. And what happens with credit cards quite often is that you will be paying a compounded interest of some sort, which is what's making the banks rich. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is what that compound interest actually is and how you can benefit to become rich from it instead of helping the banks become rich because you're paying it, right? I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to ponder this question. What would you prefer? Would you prefer a bag of cash, £1 million today, I've got £1 million, I give it to you, you walk away, no questions asked? Or would you prefer £1 today that doubles every day for 30 days and you walk away with whatever that total is, bag of cash, no questions asked? Which one of those do you think you would prefer? So before I learnt about money, I definitely would have picked the £1 million cash today because I would have assumed that that's more money. But actually, and I'm going to give you some proper numbers on this so that you have exacts. £1 million cash today is £1 million, right? If you were to take £1 a day and it doubled every day for just 30 days, at the end of that 30 days, the money that you've accrued is 1 billion, with a B, billion, 73,741,821 pounds and some change. It's a lot of money. Right? And I definitely would have picked the £1 million cash because I never would have thought about that being such a big difference. That's the power of compound interest at work. That is exactly what we're talking about here. So compound interest is where you earn interest on your interest. There's two different types of interest. There's simple interest and there's compounded interest. Simple interest is where you earn interest on your initial capital only. So let's say that you had we'll assume a couple of things here, right? So assume we've got £10,000 and assume that we're investing it at 5% simple interest. What that basically means is you take your £10,000, after 12 months, you would have earned 5%, which is £50. After 5 years, you would have earned 5%, you would have 12,500. And the same 10,000, after 20 years, you would have £20,000. Right, that's at 5%. So it's 5% of that initial capital, which just adds every year the same amount. Now, the difference between simple interest and compound interest is that if you took that same £10,000, you invested it at the same 5% level. And let's be honest, 5% actually not that difficult to access in the market. So things like the S&P 500, the FTSE 100, index funds, there's dividend funds, most of which generate more than 5% annually as an interest rate, right, or as an income level. So let's assume £10,000 for 5 years compounded over at 5%. At the end of 5 years, you've got £12,833.59, which is £333.59 more after 5 years than the simple interest calculation, which you might be thinking, well, £300 is not a big difference, but it's free money, right? Why would we sniff at that? But where compound interest becomes super sexy is the longer you leave it. If you took the same 10,000, you invest it at 5%, after 20 years, you would have £27,126.40. With the simple interest calculation, you had 20 grand. With the compound interest calculation at the same interest rate, you've got an extra £7,126.40 for doing nothing. Why don't we utilise this more? It's because No one really talks about it. No one's really told us about it. No one's really explained to us what it is, how we can benefit from it, and where we can get it, right? So, in the book, I talk about this a lot. And if you want the link to get a copy of the book, if you haven't got it yet, we'll make sure it's with the show notes. This is like life-changing money because you don't actually have to do anything for it. If you're going to save money anyway, you just put it into a different place and you benefit from compounded interest. It's about the selection of where you're putting your money. I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios now, and they're actually from the book. I'm going to share them with you. You can get a copy of the book and dig deep into these, but I'm going to give you some numbers because I want you to understand the differences and how important this stuff could be, especially for those of you who have got kids, who have got nieces and nephews, are trying to build a legacy for people. Those of you that are young who are trying to build your futures, it's important that you guys all take advantage of compound interest because it's there for you to benefit from. People just aren't. So, okay, so I'm going to give you a scenario. And again, this is in the book. You can dive deep into it in the book, but I'm going to summarize it for you because I think it'll be really helpful to you to just better understand this. What we're talking about with compound interest is the ability to build a legacy. It's ability to help out the future generation. So if you've got kids or you're an auntie, an uncle, nieces, nephews, those sorts of things, then these scenarios are going to really ring true with you. When a child's born, right, most children, not all, but most, get some sort of gift. Maybe clothes, maybe a teddy bear, maybe books, cute stuff, baby stuff. Usually, every family's on a slightly different budget, but usually there's that sort of contribution to their life at the very early stages. Then all kids have, let's say we're talking till they're 25. They have 25 birthdays, 25 Easters, 25 Christmases, right? So from the day they're born to the day they turn 25, if you were to take £25 to be siphoned off, and again, you can talk to your family members and you say, do you know what? Don't spend 25 quid on a noisy drum set or, a shit present or stuff that's going to clutter up the place. Put £25 into an investment pot for this human. Talk to your family members, talk to friends, etc. Make sure that you're transparent with it. If you can take £25 instead of gifts, what we've got is £25 on day one. And then you've got 25 birthdays, 625 quid. You've got 25 Christmases, another 625 quid. You've got 25 Easters, another £625. And you've got a total of £1,900, right? That's the pot that you've built. Now, if you were to put that into a savings account for them, most savings accounts at the moment, the interest rates are not very good. They're low, right? And they're definitely not beating inflation at all. They're super low. So let's say you do that on their 25th birthday, you're probably going to be able to give them roughly £1,900. It might be slightly higher, but it won't be a lot higher. That's on a basic savings account. But what if instead you took that 25 quid on day one, that welcome to the world present, and you took their £75 3 times a year for 25 years, and you invested it at 10% with compounded interest over time? On their 25th birthday, instead of £1,900, you'd be able to give them £8,220. That's a big difference. And I know on my 25th birthday, if someone had given me £8,000, I would have been able to buy a car or clear my student loan or, go traveling or do something that would have required money. The problem is that most people are saving money, but that money being put into a savings account is in fact eroding in value because inflation and interest rates aren't working for us. When you put it into a investment pot and it's earning money on its interest, it grows rapidly. Now, this is all talked about page 163, 164 and 65 of the book. There's another scenario that I want to talk to you about. What if you want to give your kids £1 million on their 35th birthday? Now, I don't know about you, but when I was 35, I was doing super adult stuff. I was paying mortgages. I was, building businesses. I was doing lots of stuff that took a lot of money. Most people are having children, putting kids into school, paying for holidays, like living a life that actually where money is tight. So what if, your 25-year-old, you don't want to hand your 25-year-old £1 million because actually they'd probably just buy a fast car and wrap it around a lamppost. That's probably what I would have done, I think, with £1 million on my 25th birthday. But on my 35th birthday, I was a different human being. And actually, £1 million when I turned 35, life would be very different than what it is right now. So I'm 40 now, and if I'd have got £1 million 5 years ago, I would be in a very, very different situation. You can do that for your children. You can do that for the people in your lives. Now, compound interest is how we do that. But you have to use time as the key ingredient. You have to start and use time to build up and build up and build up. So let me give you the scenario. So you want to give your kids £1 million on their 35th birthday. What you need to do is take £1,000 as a starting point. Now, I get it. Getting £1,000 together is really hard for some people, and set yourself that target. We'll talk a little bit more in the podcast about setting financial goals and getting yourselves to them. But get to that £1,000 pot. Once you've got to that, if you were to invest £1,000 at 10% per year, and you were to add £254.80 per month. So again, £254 a month is a lot of money to some people, but these are the numbers. You can work out how you can get there, right? £254.80 per month for 35 years, invested at 10%. You will have physically put in £108,016, but you will have earned £892,006.03. So you now have invested £254 a month with an initial capital investment of £1,000, and you now have a pot worth over £1 million to hand to your children if you want to on their 35th birthday. Now, you can totally do this for yourself, right? Now, not everybody's got 35 years. You know, some of you watching this will be in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s even. Time's not necessarily on our side the older that we get. But we absolutely can benefit from compound interest by starting as soon as we possibly can. Now, we're talking about these scenarios, but there's loads of different scenarios. The point I want you to take away from this is that actually compound interest is so incredibly powerful that you must take advantage of it. You must spend the time understanding it. And honestly, this is why I wrote the book, right? It's why I decided that we have to spread the word about this stuff. Because if I'd been taught this, even when I was at school, I could have set this up when I was 18. Now I'm 40. Could have been just ticking along in the background. I'd have a huge investment pot now available to do whatever I wanted with. I could take an income from it. I could sell all my assets and buy other things. You know, I could have bought businesses. I could have done all sorts. If we don't know about this, then what do we do? So on page 174 in the book, there's actually a link to a compound interest calculator. And what that will allow you to do, you can just go and download that for free. What that will allow you to do is to punch in your numbers, the target you're trying to get to. So let's say you're trying to get to £1 million in 35 years. Punch in the numbers, put in your timeline, and it will tell you how much you need to invest at what interest rate to be able to achieve the goal that you've set. It's so important that you guys spend some time learning this stuff, because without it, we've just got to rely on banks' savings rates. And let's be honest, the banks don't necessarily want us to make more money than they're making. We know that, right? But this is you benefiting from the same thing that the banks are benefiting from. It's a way of you hacking the system and actually becoming wealthy in the process. So that's it on compound interest. It is quite a big topic. And actually, you know, there's real clear formulas for you to work this out. They're not that clear, actually. They're very complicated formulas. I'm not even going to pretend like I know what the formulas are, because I don't. They're in the book. If you want to learn them, you totally can go and nerd out. It's absolutely fine. But if you're like me and you just like a quick calculation, then the compound interest calculator that's in the book that you can download for free is a super quick way of you doing it. If you've got any questions on this at all, make sure you join the Money Mechanics Facebook group. Make sure that you comment on this. If you want any help from me at all, get in touch with me, DM me, whatever it is, and I will make sure that I answer these for you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode and it's got your brains thinking about how you can position your financial future and the financial future of your kids and your family and so on. If you're over on YouTube watching, make sure you drop us a comment, hit like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening in on podcasts, make sure you leave us a 5-star review, spread the word, help us spread the love. This is the Money Mechanics podcast. Thanks for listening.